Street boy calls police after millionaire father sleeps for days. Is he a traitor? A frigid wind howled through the cracks in the dilapidated apartment, stirring up dust that danced in the feeble light from the single bulb overhead. Thomas lay still, his breath shallow, his chest heavy. Outside, the bustling city thrummed with life. But in this small room, life seemed frozen, trapped in an endless winter. Leo, just 4 years old, knelt beside his father. Worry etched across his tiny face. He couldn't understand why Dad wasn't waking up, why his comfy warmth felt alarmingly cold. "Daddy, wake up," Leo pleaded, shaking Thomas gently. The sound echoed in the silence, desperation creeping into his voice. He looked around, his world shrinking to the contours of his father's still body. In the corner, a faded calendar marked the days. It had been 3 long days since Thomas last stirred. The gnawing cold seeped through the thin walls, wrapping around them like an icy Leo's fingers trembled. He had heard the menacing laughter of their landlord, Anthony, in the hallway, his threats lingering like a bad smell. "You'll pay, old man. You'll pay dearly, just like the others." Anthony's voice dripped with malice, and each word spurred Leo's fright. As the weight of confusion pressed down, Leo felt something shift inside him. A fierce urge to act, to rescue his father. His tiny hands grabbed the old dusty phone. With shaking fingers, he dialed. The sound of ringing felt like a siren calling to hope. When Officer Lucy arrived, her heart raced at the sight before her. A frail man lay on the floor, barely breathing, and beside him, a small boy trembled like a leaf in the wind. She rushed in, her instincts roaring to life. "Stay back, kid," she called when she crossed the threshold, her voice firm, yet soothing, as she knelt to examine Thomas. The stark reality closed in around them, like the winter chill outside. Lucy's gaze flitted to Leo, the little one darting glances between his father and the strange woman. The boy's fear hung thick in the air, a raw, palpable thing. Eyes wide, Leo cried out, "Please, save him," as if the urgency of his plea could defy the gods themselves. As Thomas was whisked away on a stretcher, whispers started. The police station buzzed with speculation. Who this man truly was. The murmurs reached even Leo, who sensed the gravity of their words. Millionaire? A traitor? They echoed doubt in his ears. Days passed in the hospital. Thomas opened his eyes to blinding white lights and fluorescent ceilings. The smell of antiseptic filled his nostrils. He wasn't just battling his illness, he wrestled with shadows of his past creeping in. And as for Leo, he waited, watching every visitor, every whispered conversation. Who was Officer Lucy really? Why did she linger in his father's presence with a look of recognition? The air was thick with uncertainty. Leo felt a familiar voice somewhere, a thread of connection trying to weave itself through all their chaos. What if his father was more than just a struggling man? What if the ghosts of his past could shift everything? Hey, before you continue with this incredible story, I have an important warning for you. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And while you're at it, leave a like to help me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes a difference. Let's interact as the harsh fluorescent. The last few days felt like a fog, each moment swirling together. Around him, the beeping machines created a rhythm of artificial life. Leo stood close, his small frame dwarfed by the hospital bed, his face twitching with unspoken fears. "Daddy?" The sound of Leo's voice pulled Thomas more fully into the present. He turned his head, each movement sapping his strength, and gave a faint smile. "I'm here, buddy," he whispered, but the words felt heavy, almost choking him. Before the reunion, "Anthony, stay back," Lucy snapped, stepping protectively in front of Leo. The boy clung to her leg, trembling, eyes wide with fear. "Let him talk," Anthony jeered, stepping forward, his shadow swallowing the room. "He owes me. He's been dodging me since what?" Thomas managed to croak out, each word a monumental effort. Anger surged within him, igniting a flicker of strength. "Since he stole from me. That's right, our little millionaire has a past, doesn't he?" Thomas's heart sank, his body going cold. Leo looked up, confusion blurring his features. "Daddy?" "What does he mean?" "It's not true," Thomas rasped, but the words felt flimsy against the weight of Anthony's accusation. Feeding Leo comforting lies had been his only refuge. "You think this is a game, Thomas?" Anthony sneered, clearly relishing the chaos. "You forgot who you were. I was more than your landlord while you lived in my building. You were worth something to me, until you ran." "Ran?" Thomas repeated, panic tight in his chest. Memories flickered, hazy shadows of a life he had tried to leave behind. "Let him be," Lucy urged, voice steady, but laced with tension. But Anthony wasn't finished. "You're a fraud! A coward! And you can't hide from who you are! Your son deserves to know." With a jolt, Thomas felt the foundations of his reality shake. Leo needed him. He was no mere victim. But what Anthony was saying threatened to unravel every protective thread he had woven. "Leo!" he breathed, grasping for the right words. Suddenly, Anthony pulled out a crumpled piece of paper from his coat, brandishing it like a weapon. Here's the evidence. You really think the police will protect you when they see this?" The paper fluttered from Anthony's hand as it hit the ground. Time seemed to freeze as they all stared. Thomas's heart raced as he urgently reached out, but Leo darted forward before he could stop him, snatching the paper. "Daddy, what is this?" For a heartbeat, silence wrapped around them. The world outside faded, leaving only the weight of the moment. Leo's tiny hands shook as he unfolded the paper. As the words came into focus, a new fear struck Thomas, a fear that clawed at his insides. The truth was closer than ever, ready to spill over and shatter everything they had built. "Leo, no!" he shouted, but it was too late. The boy glanced up, eyes wide, in absolute shock, as the truth began to unfold before them all. And in that frozen moment, doubt, betrayal, and desperation hung thick in the air like a storm waiting to break. What truth had Leo discovered? And could it tear them apart forever? Leo's tiny hands shook as he unfolded the crumpled paper. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting a cold, harsh glow across the room. Thomas's heart raced, a drum echoing in his chest. "No, Leo, don't," he urged, his voice hoarse and trembling. But the boy's wide eyes scanned the words, his innocent face morphing into an expression of confusion and shock. "Daddy, what's this?" The paper trembled in his small hands, like autumn leaves caught in a gust of wind. "Hand it over, Leo," Thomas shouted, panic clawing at him. Leo's fingers froze. The room felt small, suffocating. Anthony took a step forward, watching with a chilling glee. "Let him read. He deserves to know who his father really is." With a deep breath, Thomas wrestled with the truth hovering in the air. "You don't know what you're talking about." His voice cracked, desperation threading through every word. "Look at it," Anthony insisted, his grin twisted. "It's proof that you're a fraud. You thought you could play house with the kid you abandoned?" A sudden silence fell, thick and heavy. The machines beeped rhythmically, thrumming like a heartbeat, underscoring the tension. Thomas felt every heartbeat in his chest, every breath in his lungs, a sharp reminder of what was at stake. Leo's lips quivered. "Daddy, please, just tell me." Thomas's mind raced, a storm of emotions swirling within. Could he deny this? Was there a way to shield Leo from the darkness? As if the universe conspired against him, Thomas's thoughts unraveled, memories flashing like a film reel. The choices he made, the path he walked, the life he tried to escape, all clawing back into focus. Suddenly, the crumpled page dropped from Leo's hands, fluttering to the floor. He staggered back, crashing into Officer Lucy's protective embrace. "No, no!" His voice rose, trembling with pain. Anthony's laughter filled the room, mocking and cruel. "You see, Thomas? The truth always finds a way to the surface." But just then an unexpected sound sliced through the tension. A loud, crashing noise echoed from the hallway. The door flung open, and in burst another figure, drenched and wild-eyed. Elena, Thomas's estranged wife. "Stop! Everyone stop!" she shouted, soaking the sterile floor. Her breath came in ragged gasps. "You don't know what you're doing." Silence reigned again, mouths agape. "Elena!" Thomas's heart skipped, confusion crashing over him like waves. "What are you doing here?" She rushed forward, ignoring Anthony. "Leo, sweetheart!" She knelt, pulling the boy into her arms. "You need to listen to me." Her eyes darted between him and Thomas, fear visible in her gaze. "They're lying. This is a sick game." "Lying? About what?" Thomas's confusion deepened, shadows swirling around him. "This is the part you don't understand, Thomas." Her voice shook. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. "You're not the one they're after. It's me. I was the one who stole, not you." Shock rippled through the room. Leo pulled back from her, eyes wide, confusion painting his small features. Thomas's heart sank. How could this be? "They're using you to get to me," Elena continued, her voice low but urgent. "They're trying to destroy everything, and they'll use our son to do it." Thomas's breath caught, constricting his throat. Everything turned upside down. Who was the real villain? Who could he trust? The weight of Elena's revelation hung heavy, teasing the edges of his reality. "You?" he whispered, disbelief coloring his tone. "Yes, I was forced to. Enough!" Anthony interrupted, his voice booming. The truth doesn't change, Elena. You think they'll believe this? You brought him back into this world. Thomas felt as if the ground had slipped from beneath him. The truth now felt like a monster lurking in the shadows. Everything he thought he knew was spiraling out of control. Would the chaos tear them apart, or was there a way to fight back against the storm? Leo, we need to talk, he said, his voice steadying. We need to understand what's happening. But as he reached for his son, the lights flickered again, plunging them into half-darkness for a heartbeat. Then the emergency alarms blared, cutting through the frail thread of calm. Shouts echoed down the hall. In that moment, every piece of the puzzle shifted. Lies and truths intertwined. What now? Thomas whispered, fear threading through his voice, and as he searched for answers, a deeper question loomed. Who were they truly fighting against? The alarms blared louder, slicing through the tension like a knife. Thomas's heart raced. He turned to Leo, who still clung to Elena, his small body trembling. Leo, listen to me. But the boy was lost, caught in the whirlwind of confusion swirling around them. Enough of this! Anthony barked, his voice echoing against the sterile walls. You think this is a game? You think you can just sweep everything under the rug? Elena shook her head, her eyes darting from Anthony to Thomas. No, Anthony. This isn't about you bullying my family anymore. Family? Anthony spat. You abandoned them. You turned your back. Stop it! Thomas shouted, feeling the rage boiling over. Just stop. I don't care about your games. I need to know the truth. Anthony's smirk faded, replaced by a cold, calculating stare. You really want to know what the truth is? Fine, but be careful what you wish for. Suddenly, the harsh lights flickered again, and the emergency alarm shifted into a steady, haunting tone. With trembling hands, Leo moved to his father, seeking comfort. Daddy, what's happening? His small voice quivered, filled with an innocent dread that tugged at Thomas's heart. Before he could respond, the door swung open once more. But this time, it wasn't just another shocked visitor. In stormed a group of officers, eyes sweeping the room, weapons drawn, as a commanding voice called out, "Everyone, freeze!" The air turned electric. Lucy stepped forward, her brow furrowed. What's going on? Is this the man? One officer asked, pointing a finger at Thomas. What man? Thomas felt his mind racing. Confusion turned to panic. What have I done? Sir, you're wanted in connection with a series of thefts. We have a warrant for your arrest. No, that's not true. He felt the floor drop away. I haven't done anything. The whispers in the room erupted into gasps. Anthony laughed, the sound cruel and sharp. Ha! Looks like you can't run from your past after all. Thick silence settled. All eyes were on Thomas. Wait, wait! Elena stepped forward, desperation fueling her voice. This isn't right. You can't arrest him. It was me. What are you talking about? One officer asked, incredulity painted on his face. I took the money. It was me. You've got it all wrong. Thomas's world spun. Elena, what? Why didn't you tell me? I didn't want you to suffer. This was mine to bear. Unbelievable. Was this a trick? The tension in the room was suffocating. All the pieces began to shift again, like sand through his fingers. Suddenly, an officer pulled out a phone, eyes widening as he stared at the screen. "This isn't just a theft. There's more here. We might have to call in the FBI." "What?" Thomas whispered, the gravity of the words crashing into him. "No, this can't be happening." "Everything you thought you knew, it's bigger than you think," another officer said, looking grave. A dark fear clawed at Thomas's chest. What had he stumbled into? Leo's small figure shrank against his mother's side, wide eyes darting between the chaos. "Daddy?" In that heart-stopping moment, the world shifted. It wasn't just Thomas's past that could drag him down, it was the shadow of his entire family. "Why are we doing this?" Leo's innocent voice pierced through the chaos. "Who are you? Where did the truth lie? In Elena's confession? Or was Anthony right after all?" The air crackled with uncertainty. What would happen next? And just as the walls began closing in, another loud crash echoed down the hall. Everything halted, and for a moment, only questions hung in the air. Who was truly pulling the strings? What was coming next? The alarms shrieked louder, drowning out every voice. Confusion painted the room in shades of panic. Leo pressed closer to his mother, eyes darting between Thomas and the officers. "Daddy," he whimpered, fear clouding his little face. "You can't arrest him," Elena shouted, desperation knotting her voice. "This is all a mistake." "I wish it were," the officer replied, his gaze hard as granite. "We have directives to take him in." Thomas felt a weight crush down on his chest. "Please, I didn't do anything." The words spilled out, but all he found were skeptical eyes watching him. Anthony sneered, reveling in the chaos. "See, even the kid knows the truth. A deadbeat dad who thought he could hide forever." As silence fell over them, an unwelcome clamor erupted from outside the room. Someone shouted. Then there was a crash. The officers exchanged glances. Tension wound tight in the air, like a coil ready to snap. Another shout surged through the hall. Then a voice, deep and commanding, echoed. "Everybody, get down!" Panic ignited like a firestorm. Thomas barely had a moment to comprehend it when the door slammed open, and a figure charged inside. A woman, eyes fierce, hair wild, holding a gun. "Get away from them," she bellowed, her voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. Officer Lucy moved instinctively, reaching for her weapon, but Lucy only held her ground and raised her hands. "Wait! We're all okay here. Let's talk." "Talk?" the woman scoffed, heart racing in the tension-filled room. "You think this is a negotiation?" Thomas's breath hitched in his throat. "Who are you?" As the standoff hung in the air, the woman threw her head back, laughing. "I'm the last person you expected to see, isn't that right?" The revelation rolled over the room, heavy and sharp. Recognition flickered in Thomas's eyes, a pulse of memory igniting something buried deep. "Maggie, is that really you?" "Surprise, Thomas? You thought you could just disappear? Leave me behind?" Her voice trembled with emotion, fury mixing with betrayal. "Why are you here?" He struggled to keep his voice steady, eyes darting to Leo and Elena, both frozen in a tableau of shock. "I'm here to take back what's mine, what you stole from me," she declared, stepping further into the room. Elena's face transformed, confusion lining her features. "Thomas? What is she talking about? You didn't steal anything from her." Before Thomas could reply, the tension exploded. One of the officers, caught off guard, lunged toward Maggie, and in one swift motion, she pulled the trigger. A loud bang reverberated through the room. Everything swallowed in an instant. Then, chaos erupted as officers scrambled, shouting, and bullets whizzed through the air. "Maggie, no!" Thomas screamed, lunging forward instinctively. Time slowed as the world spun into chaos. Leo screamed in terror, clutching Elena, who barely registered the horror around her. Officers shouted orders, trying to regain control. The confusion thickened as Maggie dropped to the ground, the gun slipping from her hand. Thomas's heart raced, arms reaching out. "Maggie!" But as he rushed toward her, he felt an unyielding grip tighten around his arm. A sob escaped Leo's lips. "Daddy, don't leave me." As Thomas looked back, horror swept through him. One officer lay on the ground, bleeding, wide eyes staring at the ceiling. "Everything is falling apart," whispered Elena, shaking her head in disbelief. Thomas turned back to Maggie, who gasped, eyes darting in shock. "You have to know the truth! They set me up!" His world tilted on its axis. The air was thick with secrets, betrayal hanging heavy above them. What truth? How deep did the rabbit hole go? Just then, more footsteps thundered into the room, and suddenly, the darkened shadows of looming figures filled the doorway, each armed, each a harbinger of uncertainty. "Maggie!" Thomas shouted, desperation threading through his voice. "What's happening?" But the room crackled with suspense, and as he looked between vases, he realized something crucial. The ties binding them didn't just run deep. They ran vicious. What had he unknowingly stepped into? And who was truly pulling the strings in this twisted game? The answers were eluding him, and the stakes escalated with every heartbeat. The alarms blared louder, slicing through the tension like a knife. Thomas's heart raced. He turned to Leo, who still clung to Elena, eyes wide and fearful. "Daddy?" the little boy whimpered. "You can't arrest him!" Elena shouted, desperation thick in her voice. "This is all a mistake!" "I wish it were," one of the officers replied, their gaze hard. "We have directives to take him in." Panic gripped Thomas. "Please, I didn't do anything." The words spilled out, yet all he found were suspicious eyes glued to him. Anthony's smirk remained, enjoying every chaotic second. "See, even the kid knows the truth. A deadbeat dad who thought he could hide forever." The tension thickened, and just as it seemed this storm could not grow any darker, another bang echoed down the hall. A deep, commanding voice shouted, "Everyone, get down!" Chaos erupted. Thomas barely had time to react when the door burst open and another figure charged inside. A woman, wild-eyed, gun drawn. "Get away from them!" she yelled, shaking with fury. Lucy took a step in, hands raised. "Wait, we're all okay here. Let's talk." "Talk?" the woman scoffed. "You think this is a negotiation?" Thomas's breath caught. "Who are you?" In that charged moment, Maggie stepped back, eyes flashing with recognition. "I can't believe it's come to this, Thomas." "Maggie?" His heart sank deep into his stomach. "What are you doing here?" "I'm here to take back what's mine! What you stole from me!" she shouted, stepping closer. "What? I haven't stolen anything from you. His mind scrambled. Leo was still terrified, clinging to Elena, who was equally lost. If you really thought you could just forget everything, you were wrong, Maggie continued, charging forward, unyielding. They set me up to take the fall for you. Shock coursed through the room. What? Thomas whispered. Before answers could form, the standoff shattered. One officer lunged at Maggie, but her gun fired, a loud bang resonating through the air. Time suspended. No! Thomas shouted, lunging to stop her, but feeling an unyielding grip tighten around his arm. Maggie! Leo screamed, burying his face in his mother's side. Maggie staggered back, shock plastered across her face as blood seeped through her shirt. The room erupted into chaos. Everyone, clear the area! Officers shouted, their faces masks of horror, scrambling to regain control. Maggie! Thomas called, rushing toward her, every instinct screaming. Yet he felt an officer's hold pinning him back, ensnaring him in a web of turmoil. And in that very moment, everything changed. The doctor who limped in through the door, eyes wide, pushing a gurney, gasped. Thomas, I need you to understand. Everything's connected. What do you mean? Panic bubbled in Thomas. Remember your brother Victor? He's been alive. They've been using his name, the doctor exclaimed, his face pale. Thomas's breath caught. Victor? But he died. Yes! The doctor's voice trembled, words tumbling out. No, the truth is much darker. You were framed, Thomas. All of this, it's about Victor's true fate. Every voice, every sound fell away as that truth hung in the air. The room spun. Thomas blinked, grappling with a reality too colossal to fathom. His brother's shadow blurred the lines of right and wrong. Everything you thought you knew, it's bigger than you think, the officer murmured. Gaze shifting from the chaos to Thomas's ashen face. Maggie, please! Thomas clung to the fragments of his world, feeling the cracks deepen. What have we done? What are you hiding? Elena clutched Leo, fear and disbelief etched across her face. What's going on? Who is Victor? With a sudden noise, a rattle, and a massive crash, the lights above flickered and went out, plunging them into darkness, dispelling all sense of safety. In the frantic silence that followed, everything turned uncertain. Thomas stood amid whispers and gasps, desperate to find solid ground. Daddy? Leo's small voice trembled in the dark. Maggie! Victor! What does this all mean? Thomas's mind raced for answers. But in that thick darkness, hope and despair swirled together. All he felt was the weight of shattered truths barreling toward him. What lay hidden in each shadow, waiting to break free? The alarms grow louder, piercing the thick air of uncertainty. The darkness seems to intensify, wrapping around them like a shroud. Anxiety grips Thomas as he inches closer to Maggie, his heart racing. What do you mean, you were framed? His voice trembles, heavy with disbelief. In the shadows, Leo's small hands clutch at Elena, her expression a mix of confusion and fear. The room feels suspended in time, the chaos of voices falling away into a whisper. Thomas's gaze flickers to the officers, their weapons raised, in a confrontation too chaotic to comprehend. Maggie's eyes blaze with urgency. It wasn't you they wanted. It was Victor! They used you as bait to keep me in line. Her voice trembles as panic flickers across her face. Don't you see? They'll do anything to tear us apart. In that moment, a cacophony erupts. Someone in the hall shouts. Another voice joins, and suddenly, explosions of sound ripple through the air. The lights flicker again, before plunging them into darkness. Sirens wail outside, mingling with the clamor. Get down! One officer screams as bodies collide in panic. The sense of impending doom hangs heavily over them. Thomas feels a jolt, a rush of adrenaline. Leo, stay close, he commands, shoving his way toward his son. But the thrumming chaos makes it impossible to move forward. In a rush, a flash of light erupts from the hallway, blue and red, illuminating the room momentarily. As the alarm blares, a figure bursts in, silhouetted against the chaos. A tall man, face obscured by the flickering lights. Get out of my way, he bellows, hands raised, and in a split second, everything freezes. It's Victor, the murmurs still, breaths held. Thomas's heart falters. The man he thought lost forever stands there, alive. Victor? Thomas's voice comes out as a gasp, incredulity striking him like a blow to the chest. But how? Not now, Thomas. We don't have time. They're coming for all of us. Victor's voice is urgent, laced with desperation. The air turns thick with confusion. Maggie takes a step forward, eyes wide. What have you done? There's fear in her voice that sends chills through Thomas's spine. What do they want with you? I made mistakes, Maggie, Victor shouts, his face contorted with emotion. Mistakes that put all our lives at risk. I didn't want to drag you down with me. Suddenly, an explosion rocks the hallway, a thunderous noise that shakes the very walls. Dust and debris fall from the ceiling, darkness swirling as shouts ring out. Everyone down, commands one of the officers, panic breaking into urgency. The room erupts. Officers draw their weapons, aiming toward the doorway. Thomas instinctively shields Leo with his body, but his heart pounds for Victor. Why did you come back? Thomas croaks, his throat tight. You shouldn't have returned. Not after everything. Because they need you, Thomas. They need you to make a choice. Victor's eyes lock onto Thomas's with intensity. You have to decide whose side you're on. Side? Thomas echoes, confusion flooding him. What are you talking about? Before Victor can answer, the lights flicker back on, illuminating panic-stricken faces around them. Outside, gunshots ring out, echoing through the halls. The officers yell, some rushing to the door. Then it strikes Thomas like lightning. A horrific realization. Victor isn't just a brother. He's the reason behind the chaos. The choice hangs like a noose around his neck. Trapped between family loyalty and the truth he hardly knows, Thomas feels the weight of the world crash on his shoulders. Leo's wide eyes reflect the chaos around them, and in that moment, Thomas knows whatever choice he makes, the consequences will ripple through the lives of everyone he loves. What side will he choose, and what secrets will dawn from the shadows? The alarms echoed, a shrill cry that made every heartbeat feel heavy. Thomas's eyes were locked on Victor, disbelief swirling in his chest. You have to decide whose side you're on. Victor's voice cut through the chaos, urgency coursing through every word. But before Thomas could reply, Another crash erupted from the hallway, louder this time. The air thickened. Officers yelled, scrambling for cover. "Control the hallway!" someone shouted. Leo clung tighter to Elena, his eyes wide with fear. "Daddy!" he whimpered, seeking safety in his mother's arms. Thomas felt a rush of protectiveness, a primal urge burning within him. He reached out, desperate to shield his son from the chaos. "Victor, please, what's happening?" Thomas's voice trembled, fighting against the fear, clawing at him. "Everything has spiraled out of control because of us!" "You have to trust me," Victor urged, panic etched into his face. "They're not who you think they are." Suddenly, from behind Victor, a woman emerged, her features partially hidden by shadows. But the glint of a knife caught the light. Time froze. "Enough of this!" she yelled. The voice sent chills down Thomas's spine. A sound too familiar, yet twisted. "Maggie!" He gasped. "What are you doing? Put that down!" "I'm saving us!" she screamed, wild eyes darting. "They've lied to you, all of you! It's time to show the truth!" In the flickering lights, her body surged forward, slicing through the tension like a blade. Desperate, Thomas lunged to stop her, but her eyes flared with pain and ferocity. "I found something! I had to protect you from the truth!" "What truth?" Thomas cried, helpless. Then, in a flash, she thrust the knife toward Victor. The world spun on its axis. "No!" Thomas shouted, feeling his heart stall. The snap of movement, a sudden shriek as the officers closed in, guns drawn. The knife glinted, flashing under the overhead lights. Victor dodged back, a sharp intake of breath echoing as he stumbled. "Maggie, you don't understand. You chose to lie," she shouted, the turmoil escalating. "You left me behind." Thomas's heart sank. What had happened between them? Pieces of his world crumbled into dust at the edges of pain and betrayal that dripped from her words. And then, an unexpected explosion rocked the building. The force pushed Thomas back, sending his body crashing against the wall. The ceiling rumbled as debris fell, dust swirling in the chaos. Leo screamed, the sound piercing through the fear. "Mom! Daddy!" In a single heartbeat, everything shattered. The lights flickered, chaos erupted, but through it all, the world seemed to shift, twisting the direction of fate. As the dust settled, Thomas blinked, trying to regain his bearings. Everything was a haze of confusion. He looked for Leo, his heart thumping violently in his chest. "Leo!" he shouted, panic igniting, searching the chaos for his son. And then, amidst the rumble, Victor turned to Thomas with wild eyes, voice tinged with desperation. "This is bigger than us. The truth about our past. It involves the money, the land, everything." But before he could finish, another figure appeared. A man stepped through the smoke, his presence imposing. A knowing grin split his face, eyes glinting with malice. "Surprise, brothers!" he called, a mocking lilt in his tone. "Did you miss me?" Thomas's breath hitched. Recognition crashed over him like a wave. Disbelief frozen in his throat. "You?" It was their father, long thought gone, re-emerging like a ghost from a grave. "Pop!" Victor exclaimed. "I've been watching you, both of you!" Their father's voice was rich with layered secrets, tainted by shadows of the past. And now, it's time to settle old scores. Time froze, as realization washed over them. The truths they thought they knew, twisted like wires, rearranging connections that would change everything. Relationships, loyalties now questioned. Identities rewritten. "How could you?" Thomas whispered, the world spiraling into darkness. Everything hung in the balance. Where did love end and betrayal begin? One thing was clear. The past had returned to haunt them, and the storm was far from over. The room felt like it was holding its breath. Victor's presence weighed heavily on Thomas, emotions swirling like a tempest. Just as he opened his mouth to demand answers, a loud crash echoed from the corridor, rattling the walls. The lights flickered ominously, casting eerie shadows around them. "Stay back," one of the officers shouted, raising his weapon as the door creaked open again. The tension thickened, a palpable fear filling the air. Then it happened. A figure burst into the room, silhouetted against the chaotic scene. "You have to get out of here!" shouted a frantic voice. The identity of this newcomer sent chills down Thomas's spine. "Mom?" he whispered, disbelief crashing over him like icy water. "Maggie, what are you doing here?" Victor's eyes widened, his voice trembling as he took a step closer. Their mother stood there, wild-eyed and shaking, dirt and grime covering her clothes. "You need to listen to me. It's worse than you think." Her voice cracked. "I've been trying to protect you boys." Thomas's heart sank, confusion mingling with an aching recognition. "Protect us from what?" "From him!" she screamed, pointing at their father, who had come alive with rage at her intrusion. "He's not who you think he is!" "What do you mean?" Thomas demanded, his voice rising in desperation. "You abandoned us!" But she shook her head violently, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I did it because I had to! Your father is dangerous. The money isn't the problem, it's what he did to get it." A crescendo of chaos erupted around them. The officers shouted, their attention now split between apprehending their father and processing this new bombshell. "What did he do?" Thomas pressed, desperation gripping him. "He killed someone," she spat, each word loaded with accusation. The room fell silent, everyone taken aback. "Mom, you're lying!" Victor shouted, horror flooding his features. "You're just trying to gaslight us!" "No, I have proof," she cried, pulling out a crumpled envelope from her pocket. "Here, this is the truth. Everything is in here." Before anyone could react, the door slammed open again, and another figure appeared, breathing heavily, a look of terror in his eyes. "You have to run. They're coming." Thomas's heart plummeted. "Who's coming?" "The ones your father works for," the newcomer gasped, panic spilling from his lips. "They know you're here. They know about the documents." Thomas's mind spun as the weight of each revelation crashed over him. His father hunted. Maggie! Truthful? The very fabric of his understanding of their lives began to unravel. "Leo!" Elena's voice shattered the confusion as she pulled the boy close, eyes darting around, seeking safety. "We have to get out of here." In that moment, Thomas realized what he needed to do. "We can't leave. We need to get those documents." But before he could make a move, a loud explosion rocked the building. Dust and debris cascaded down around them as the sound echoed like thunder. "Mom!" Thomas shouted, reaching back towards her as chaos reignited. Then the world shifted again, the air thick with smoke. Everything was enveloped in a haze. Leo stifled a cry. Fear stamped across his small face. Suddenly, a glint caught Thomas's eye. The papers Maggie had pulled out slipped from her fingers, scattering like helpless leaves in the wind. He lunged for them, desperate to gather the fragments of a new truth. Then, in the stretch of half-light, something unexpected happened. A figure appeared in the haze, stepping through the rubble. A face Thomas never thought he would see again. His brother, Victor's twin, long lost to the shadows. "Surprise, boys," he said, his voice draped in smugness. "I've been waiting for the right moment." Everything froze. Thomas blinked, confusion and shock coiling tighter and tighter around him. What did this mean? Who was this stranger, and what game were they playing now? The room buzzed with uncertainty, questions thrumming in the air like a loaded gun. And as he stood among the chaos, he felt the fracture lines of loyalty and love shift beneath his feet. The choices ahead grew darker, each path clouded by the looming threat of family secret. What catastrophe awaited them next? The chaos intensified as Thomas stared in disbelief at Victor's twin. "You? How on earth are you here?" His breath hitched, confusion swirling. Their father grinned, a twisted smile that sent shivers down Thomas's spine. "I've been watching both of you. You think I disappeared? No, I was always closer than you thought." "Why now?" Victor pressed. "Why show up like this?" "Because it's time for you both to take your rightful place in the family business," he said, eyes glittering with something darker. "You mean your crime family," Maggie shouted, shaking with fear. "Stop!" Thomas shouted, panic surging through him. "You're the monster of our past." "Am I?" Their father's voice dripped with mockery. "Look around, Thomas. Everything you have is built on this. You think you're innocent? That you can escape?" Before anyone could respond, another loud explosion rocked the building, sending a fresh wave of panic through the room. Thomas stumbled, shielding Leo, who was pressed tightly against Elena. Loud sirens still echoed in the background. "We need to move, now!" One officer urged. "Out of the way!" An officer yelled, aiming his weapon at their father, trembling with urgency. But their father just laughed. "You think you can stop me? I own this city." Maggie stepped forward, fury in her eyes. "You don't own us. Not anymore." Thomas looked at her, and in that moment, he felt hope flicker. We can expose him. We can end this. "Tom, it's too late for that," Victor shouted back. "He's too powerful." Suddenly, the newcomer stepped up, eyes burning with determination. "No, it's not. There's a way to bring him down, but we have to work together." "What do you know?" Thomas demanded. "I've got the connections," the man said fiercely. "With the evidence Maggie has, plus what I've gathered, we can take him down." The sense of urgency coiled tighter around them, buzzing like a live wire. "Then let's do it," Thomas shouted. "We can't let him win." "But we need to hurry," the newcomer insisted, glancing nervously toward the door. "They're already here!" As if on cue, a burst of officers flooded in, weapons drawn, ready for action. "Get down!" someone shouted. Maggie grabbed Leo, pulling him close, while Elena shielded him protectively. "You stay behind us," she commanded fiercely, and he nodded, eyes wide in fright. "No!" Thomas exclaimed, determination surging inside him. "We're not hiding. We're fighting." In that moment of unison, something shifted. The storm around them seemed to calm, if only for an instant. They all understood what was at stake. Families, lies, lives! Thomas stepped forward, breath steadying. Let's show him what we're made of. With renewed purpose, they moved as one. The chaos crystallized into focus. They had the stuff of truth on their side. They could outsmart the man who had haunted their lives. As they regrouped, they could hear the commotion of officers sweeping through the building, closing in. Now or never, Thomas whispered, feeling the weight of everything lift slightly. The fight ahead wasn't just against their father. It was against the darkness that had held them for too long. Each stride forward filled Thomas with determination. "Maggie!" "The papers," he urged, and she nodded, pulling them from her pocket. With adrenaline thrumming through their veins, they prepared to face the looming ghosts of their past. The doubts hung like shadows, but Thomas felt the flicker of hope grow brighter within. As the door exploded open, they sprinted through, ready to confront whatever awaited them on the other side. What awaited them next? Would they finally break free? Or was the shadow of their father too powerful to escape? You must subscribe now. Don't miss any exclusive stories coming your way. Press that like button now to help support the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. Share this video immediately with at least 5 friends who need to know how this all wraps up. This is the time to show your support. Don't wait 1 second longer.